Welcome back to the Thom Hartmann radio program, brought to you by you, our listeners, supporting our show, your radio station, and our advertisers. Let them know that you're listening. Barack Obama.
It's why we're building on the promising work being done in places like South Carolina's Teachers Advancement Program and making an unprecedented commitment to ensure that anyone entrusted with educating our children is doing the job as well as it can be done. Now, here's what that commitment means. It means treating teachers like the professionals they are, while also holding them more accountable. In up to 150 more school districts, new teachers will be mentored by experienced ones. Good teachers will be rewarded with more money for improved student achievement and asked to accept more responsibilities for lifting up their schools.
Now, see, frankly, I don't think that, rewarding a teacher with more responsibility, rewarding anybody, oh, you did a great job, now we're going to increase your workload by 20%. Don't think that's a good idea. Number two, I don't think that merit pay is a good idea, because the problem is that the teachers who decide to take on the most challenging students are not going to get the merit pay. And the teachers in the nice upper middle class white bread neighborhoods, you know, where the kids are doing really well and it's not that hard to get them to do a little bit better, they're going to get, you know, unless it's handled by their peers. And that brings us back to the teachers union. I think if the teachers unions have some say in how compensation happens, because they're the people who are right there on the ground. Now, I would like this to be as local as possible rather than as statewide or national as possible, because I really do think that there's something to be said for peer pressure and peers working together. But frankly, I don't think that money is the way you motivate teachers. You need to pay them well enough that they can make a decent living, give them a good pension, give them good health insurance benefits, and we're not doing any of the above, by the way, in the United States right now compared to other countries around the world. We don't pay our teachers anything close to what teachers are paid in most of the industrialized countries of the world compared to other workers. We need to be paying our teachers better. But that said, I think the way that you incentivize teachers is you give them flexibility. You give them freedom. You give them the freedom to experiment. You give them the opportunities to try new things, to be creative. You give them smaller class sizes. You give them classrooms that are functional. I remember, just a couple of quick stories. I remember when our son we were looking around for schools. This is when he was a teenager, and we went down and looked at a school in Atlanta. It was called Horizon School, and it was a school that was run by the kids. Now, academically, the teachers had absolute say, but with regard to everything else, the student council ran the school, right down to the dress code. And I remember walking into a classroom, and there were kids sitting on the floor. There was a kid sitting in the windowsill. There was a kid sitting on the teacher's desk. The teacher was up on the and these kids were all yelling and shouting at each other. And these were like 12-year-olds. And my immediate thought as I walked in was, this is a classroom out of control. These kids are totally out of control. And you know, sometimes when you listen a little bit, it changes your world. I stood there thinking that, and then I started listening to what the kids were yelling about. And what the kids were yelling at the teacher about, and he was yelling back at them. What they were having this knockdown, drag-out, passionate debate with the teacher about was, Einstein says E equals mc squared, energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. And if that's the case, I mean, there's this whole esoteric argument about how is it possible to achieve the speed of light or exceed the speed of light and not have mass collapse to zero. I mean, it was a debate about Einstein's theory of relativity. These kids were on fire for this topic. It just didn't look like a conventional classroom. And our son went to that school and just did brilliantly. This is innovation in school. In Taiwan, I visited a classroom in Taiwan. Now, this is not done all across the board in Taiwan, but this was a school where they had the teachers, the public school. The teachers stood up. Now, most teachers can summarize in 5 minutes an entire hour's worth of work. Most kids won't know what they're saying, but you can summarize long division or algebra in 5 minutes, right? So this teacher gets up on up to the board, summarizes the lesson in 5 minutes, then turns and looks around the class and says, "Now, who understands this?" 5 or 6 kids out of 30 kids in the class stood up. She said, okay, fine, now you teach it to your peers. And they formed little groups around them of kids sitting who didn't understand, and the ones who were standing told the ones who were sitting. The teacher walked around and helped out the teachers. As the kids who were sitting got it, they began to stand up, until at the end of the hour, every kid in the classroom was standing. Learning was moving across that classroom like a wave. And the easily bored kids, they were having a great time because they were teaching. And the kids who just wanted to sit and listen, they were having a great time because they were learning. And learning was happening in that classroom. These kind of things. In Sweden, they don't start teaching reading until the age of 7. And yet at 16, their kids are outperforming our kids. Because they're using, to a large extent, Rudolf Steiner, the Waldorf School's notion that kids need to learn other things before reading. I mean, there are so many ways that we can go other than just drugging our kids.